Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Horse's Mouth Live, the Extraordinary Advisor Show. My name is Ellen Rogin, and as always, I have guests who bring in great information to help you in every area of your life, especially your business. And I'm very excited to have best-selling author Deb Smolensky with us today. And I'll give you her official background in a moment, but we're going to have a really important conversation about energy in our brain and about how this is really the greatest tool that we have to bring with us to work every day. Her book just came out on Tuesday, and let me show her book, Brain On. And as I was reading it today in Starbucks, waiting for an appointment that I had, right in the first couple pages, I underlined this sentence: we haven't been taught how to protect and regulate our brain's energy so we can be more productive and happier at work. Like, how obvious, and yet how so true. Like, we haven't been taught this. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let me give you a little bit on Deb's background. Besides being an FOE, friend of Ellen's, Deb Smolensky is the #1 best-selling author, speaker, award-winning thought leader in the areas of human performance and well-being at work. She serves as a global well-being and engagement practice leader and is also an advisor for the InsurTech, which is a fintech and digital health startup communities. Over the past 25 years, Deb has received numerous certifications and designations in organizational health and productivity. She consults with people all over the country, Fortune 500 leaders, to develop strategies and practices that empower individuals to lead healthy, productive lives at work through innovative, meaningful, and engaging programs and solutions. Deb, yay, welcome. I'm so excited this day has come. We've been planning for this for a while.
I am thrilled. Thank you so much for inviting me. I am a big fan, and so this is a special day for me.
Yeah, so I love this concept. I know a lot about mindfulness and emotional intelligence, but I hadn't ever, till we started talking and I've started to read your book, think about the fact that we have this brain that we know we need for our everyday life, especially our work life, and yet we're not even aware of how to maximize it, how to take care of it. And I don't just mean brain health. I mean, as you talk about building the energy of our brain, talk a little bit about like why we haven't talked about this. When you say brain on, what that really means, just this whole, how it impacts us in our business lives.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start because we use our brains to create work, to have successful businesses, to interact in life. That is the part of our brain, the thinking brain, that helps us interact and be successful. But really what we don't know is that our brains are like 2,000 years old, designed to keep us safe through the amygdala back here, so that when that one dinosaur came, we wouldn't freak out. So I made the realization long ago that we have those two parts. And what I learned is only one part can be on at a time. So you can't be like angry and also smiling at the same time. Like, I can't be nervous and be my best self at the same time. And the kicker is our default brain, that amygdala, is job to keep us alive, is always running. So we're really never using our thinking brain unless we tell it to be brain on. And that's how I came up with the name. And that's kind of the name of the game. You said, bring our brains to work. Well, we have no choice. It's just, they're not working for us right now. We're running a 2,000-year-old program.
Yeah. Prepping for this interview, I came off another meeting, having problems with some tech thing, trying to get a proposal out, like all these things. And I realized I was stepping into this conversation earlier with a lot of feelings of overwhelm. And so that would be brain off. Is that right?
Yeah, because overwhelm, so the brain off really means your fight, flight, or freeze response that we've all heard of. Our amygdala is running, which it is supposed to. It's designed to keep us safe. But in today's complex world, we haven't trained our brain to know that, oh, I'm overwhelmed. It's not a freaking dinosaur, right? It's not a saber-toothed tiger. Oh, I dropped my phone. Oh, we go into panic. We hold our breath, fight, flight. So we need to just be aware our brain's program from the start is always going to take that approach. And we have to, like you did, pause and become brain on. You probably took a breath or two, and we can go through that to really be your best. Have a conversation with me.
Yeah. So how do we, let's start to talk about in our work life, and I have no doubt that it bleeds over into our personal life, but we're focusing on work right now. How do we best apply brain on in work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm now remembering part one of your earlier question, like, why don't we know this? It's because we just assume our brains are built to work, right? And they're not. And so that was a big lesson I talk about in the book. But really, in my daily life and in my job, I've learned we don't know how our brains work, especially at work. So we get up and we pick up our phone and we're already spiraling down with worry, overwhelm to do, brain off, fight, flight, or freeze. And so the way I suggest starting, and what I start out in the chapters and the mental fitness chapters on, is the brain on check-in, or the brain off, brain on check-in. That is the key. Like, if we practice that for a year, which is so simple, that will help us navigate life better. That will help add clarity. That will help us focus. It will help lessen the overwhelm and stress as we practice and practice. Because each time you notice, like you did, you noticed, oh, I'm overwhelmed. Well, that means consciously you noticed. And so that's a rep for our brain, because we can rewire and upgrade our brains. Like I know you talk about, right? Mindset, neuroplasticity. That's the secret. We can upgrade our brains to upgrade our lives and work.
So what are some ways that you can be more conscious? Am I being brain on, or brain off? Like, how does someone start to notice that?
Yeah, so that's a great place to start, because I talk about the brain on check-in like the foundational core exercise for our core mental muscles, and as like a plank, right? A plank or a push-up, helping us stay up straight and really function upright in life. So the brain on check-in builds that core, and you tell when you're brain on or brain off by what your thoughts are telling you, or your feelings or your emotions are telling you. And so if it was that easy, though, we'd all be stress-free. We'd all be having a really successful business, and we won't be overwhelmed before a meeting. So we consciously have to practice that exercise. Just like you can't snap your fingers and have a good, strong core, or walk every day. You have to start somewhere. So we consciously have to ask ourselves, well, what am I feeling? And what am I thinking? Because when you do that, you're like, oh, wow, my jaw is so tense right now. And I must have been like clenching my teeth for the last 5 emails. Or, oh, I'm pretty exhausted. I must be ready for a nap. I have no brain power left. By asking yourself, you consciously check in and make sure you know if you're brain off or brain on. Now, the thing I will say based on this is our default program is brain off, our amygdala is running. So we shouldn't be surprised when almost every check-in we're like, oh, I'm brain off. Like, oh, why did I put the lettuce in the cupboard of my chip cabinet? Because, oh, that's where my chip clip is and I wasn't thinking, so I put my lettuce in there. Once you find out, another muscle, right? We've rewired us to pay attention, to be aware. So just asking yourself the brain on check-in, what are my thoughts? What am I feeling? Where is pain in my body? Tells you where and how much you're running that fight or flight response.
So I want to go back to ways we can keep reminding ourselves of this, but I want to point out something I just saw you do. I know you told this story in your book launch about putting the chip, your lettuce in the chip cabinet because you put the chip clip on and weren't paying attention. But instead, I could imagine someone going, you are such a friggin' idiot. Like, why did you put and beating yourself up for doing something like that? And what I just heard you say is, first of all, it is kind of funny. So finding humor in it. But I also heard you say, this is what noticing that you were brain off in that process is like a bicep curl for your brain to start to being aware that was brain off and funny. And now I'm going to be brain on. Am I getting that right, Deb?
Yeah. So it took me 3 years to be able to laugh at that, because that's not how our brain works. Our brains are designed to keep us safe. They're not programmed to keep us happy, productive, successful, connected. So we usually, to your point, go, why did I just like totally waste my lettuce? And on that day, it was like the next day and I was starving and I had nothing to eat. I could have beat myself up. So that's exactly right. When we notice, we need to actually train our brains to also have self-compassion, because it's not wired in us. And that's another mental fitness exercise. Literally 10 minutes before, you were overwhelmed, right? Well, I was in the bathroom kind of getting ready. I was so excited and playing some music, which I do to pump up my brain, to get brain on. And I literally wanted to check the time. And because the music was playing, I didn't realize my phone was right there. I literally searched all over for my phone. It was just sitting there. And I would have gone, oh, my, now I'm late, da, da, da. But I've learned to go, oh, that's how the program works. Oh, thank goodness I know that. Good job, Deb. You found your phone.
Yeah.
Muscle, muscle, muscle.
So how do we start? Like if
Yeah.
we've been, our brains are set up to have the amygdala being fired, and we are used to just like getting stuff done or not getting stuff done or whatever our way of being is.
Yeah.
And now I want to start to be more aware of if I'm brain on, brain off, so I can build that muscle. Like what are ways? I could imagine after this, someone's like, okay, I'm going to pay attention. And
Yeah.
then a couple hours from now, they forgot we were even going to do this. What do you suggest for someone to actually start to do this work to pay more attention?
And it's not a couple hours, because our brains work the way they work. It's at 11:31 or whenever they like right now, they're probably multitasking. That's normal, but they can't see it. So it's just catching ourselves. But again, we're running this program. We don't know. We haven't been taught. So you have to, like anything, build in a routine to check in. That's like any fitness routine. You start somewhere and you make sure you try to incorporate it daily, if that's your goal, or 3 times a week. So for work, because we all work, right? There are so many chances, but really tying it to 3 important points in our day is the best place to start. And all I suggest doing is being aware, like bringing that muscle, working on your awareness muscle. So check in on how your day is starting, check in on how you're doing during the day, and check in at night before you go to sleep. Well, why? I think the best place to check in, even if you just want to start once a day, right? It's a tiny habit that really can have instrumental and like amazing effects, is where and how do you start your work day? Do you start it the minute the alarm goes off by checking your phone? Well, that's a habit we need to reprogram, because you need to get your brain online so that you're the best self you can be. And normally we have a text or we check our calendar, like we go down the brain off spiral. Or you eat breakfast if you remember to, right? You're not late, and you're digesting your food and you're digesting the news. And the news is just like being in that movie for your brain. It can't tell if it's reality or not. So right now, unfortunately, I am in Hawaii and I'm so fearful. I feel for those people and I'm brain off. And so then I start my work day brain off and not my best self. Or if that doesn't happen, your commute definitely probably turns you brain off. And so going through those 3 check-ins, and especially ending at night, knowing if you're brain off or brain on, and trying to do something like a gratitude practice like you talk about, right? Or a positive thing that happened the day, sets you up for better sleep because you're not ruminating, and sets you up for more energy the next day.
Okay, so because we've spent a lot of time talking about this, how important gratitude is. Let's start with the beginning of the day. So
Okay.
most people I know grab this right away, and they're, as you said, they're checking their emails, they're blah, blah, blah. Why is that not a good practice? And what can happen? What might someone do instead? And how doing something else might set them up for a much better day?
Now, that's a great question. So not to get too in the weeds, but we have to learn to train our brains these people, there's 7,000, hundreds of thousands of people training our brains already, right? We're addicted. We've trained our brains just the wrong way. So we're checking social like they want, or we're checking things. And what that does is, one, it uses our brain energy for something that's probably not top priority for us, that really would benefit our life and our business. We've just wasted time because we're kind of pulled that way. They know how to trigger that amygdala, FOMO or whatever. So that device, we need to consciously choose how to use it and how to make it work for us instead of working for it. And so what I have done, and it's really hard, I'm really addicted to my phone. I'm at the point where I need to keep it by my bed because I'm still worried my kids would call in the middle of the night, or like reality, right? But I hide it way under my bed so I can't pull the cord in the middle of the night and check who just texted me. That ruins my sleep. So strategically figure out your relationship with your phone, because it turns your brain off immediately and zaps your energy like nothing else.
I know for me, I am very clear that I am a morning person. My books are all written first thing in the morning. It's my most creative time. And that brain energy, is it everybody's most creative time, or is there certain people that have their brains are functioning best at other times of day? Like, are there ways we can start to recognize when our best times are, or how to conserve that, as you call it, brain energy?
Yeah, there was two big ahas for me that I wanted to include in the book that I couldn't find anywhere else or put together in the way I did. One was, we have this cognitive skill set where we have to be brain on and aware to think our best, to listen, to interact in the world, and to turn our amygdala off and turn our brain on, because they both can't be on at the same time. So that's the mental fitness exercise for that. But I was still exhausted during the workday, and I was still finding low energy. And that's where my well-being and engagement hat came in. And I realized, oh, you also need to manage the brain power, your brain's energy. I've been calm, I've been productive, but still slower, right? And so it's a two-part equation. And so managing your energy, I talk about with brain boosters. And you've mentioned some of these, but even having this great conversation with my amazing friend, that's a brain booster. Connecting with somebody, going out in nature. I talk a lot about the two parts. It's not just mental fitness, it's energy management, and they're both critical. One tells us how we're going to work our best, brain on. The other tells us, like, oh, how we're going to power that thinking and be our best. And I always think, well, I see people, 3 bars still powered, but not 4 bars, and they're running for the outlet. We never know until we know, and it's because we're laying flat on the couch, or we caught ourselves binging, exhausted on the TV, our favorite Netflix show. So energy management is super important.
I know for me that it's taken me a while to know and appreciate this, and still
Yeah.
I sometimes try to push through when I have big projects. But I know that, first of all, being in nature is super energizing to me. And yet I catch myself not taking that break in the middle of the day to just go outside and be in the sun when there is sun in Chicago. Or the other part is having good conversations or being around friends. Without a doubt, I always feel more energized when I'm with energizing people. And yet I don't always schedule those things, because I am used to just feeling like, no, I got to get stuff done. So is there like an audit or something that someone can do to start to realize, A, when they're feeling less energized, or B, what things for them are good brain boosters?
Yeah. So I just listened to you describe your brain's programming, right? We are programmed not to take a break. We're programmed to stay safe. Safe means, in this day and age, I need this email done. I got to get this done. I got to check that. Like, we're on hyper alert and everything looks like a dinosaur, because that is how our brains work. So just knowing that is a huge step. And then you said, I learned right? Brain on, you did those reps knowing how to manage the energy. And yet I still forget sometimes, right? That's normal. So first just, okay, it's normal. You did so many reps in just that learning, right? But your energy, once again, your body, your thought, and your mind will tell you. Like, we know this stuff. So a lot of times I'll catch myself now saying, oh, I need to stretch my legs. We say that all the time in a meeting. Or give me, like, oh, okay, that literally means get up and stretch your legs, right? Boost your energy. Or we'll say, this really hurts my brain. Okay, then stop and do something that will take your energy back up. Those are the plug-in moments. And all of us during every day says this, we just don't listen. So that's the muscle. Trying to just catch once in a while the signals your body already knows or your thoughts are already telling you.
Will you give us some easy, quick brain on activities that we can incorporate in our daily life?
Yeah. The best part about this is these are so simple, but we just need to learn to pay attention to them. So the best place to do all of this is our workplace. Every day we go into our mental gym that's full of obstacle. Professional athlete would don't have the training or know how our brains work at work. So a couple simple places to start is the brain on check-in and then breathing. So again, if you can build this routine by checking in once, right? It literally is, again, just as a reminder, asking yourself, oh, what am I feeling now? Or where am I tending my body? Right now I'm actually, which is very rare during the work. So thank you. But before we were overwhelmed or I forgot my phone, I'm brain off. So just asking yourself, the more you ask, the more it rewards the reward center, the dopamine, that will become a really great exercise. The other thing I do all the time is the breath. Now, I never used to like tying breath. I thought it was a little woohoo. The breath is actually a light switch to turn your brain. It literally turns your one nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, to more calm parasympathetic, the rest and digest. So the breath is the light switch to be breathing. And you don't have to close your eyes and hum or whatever that is. I glance down. And the reason we glance down or close our eyes is just to limit that amount of data our brain has to interpret scary. Or so we just glance down and take 3 breaths. And in the first breath, you just clear your minds. I picture a thought just floating like a cloud or a whiteboard at work. And then the second breath, I was thinking like, you know this, Ellen, like I can see, but in the second breath, and it's usually somebody brain can work at it. We can practice. It's a skill,
big, and it's always fun to do this. I love to practice it.
Okay, so just glance down or just look at the floor, and on this first breath we're going to clear our mind. So take a good breath in, clear our thoughts. In the second breath, we're going to relax our body. And in the third breath, we're going to bring to mind somebody that makes us smile and wish them well in our minds. I usually say, may you have a good day. That was a little tricky for me because the person I usually bring to mind is you. And I was like looking and then not looking. And then that was a good practice for me.
Yeah, I actually for that brought to mind our dog Honey, who's behind me. Sometimes people see her like walking in the video, and I was thinking of her tail wag, which is such an energy booster to see like a puppy wagging their tail. The other thing I was thinking before we walk through this activity, when you were saying this breath, how I think I've naturally had that be part of what I do because I've been a meditator for so long. But I was reminded when I had my practice and staff team working with me, every time I'd walk into Sandy's office, I'd go, Like I'd sigh. And she's like, you're always sighing. And I
Oh,
used to think that was a sign of stress, but I actually think it was a protection thing, like a way to maybe go brain on, like
yeah.
this
Right. You're
sigh, deep breath.
releasing your stress, and now you're going
Mhm.
to be present. And that's that's the thing in work. These can just like nobody knows I'm doing this in meetings. Before you go to the next meeting, just taking a breath. Nobody knows you're going to carry that baggage forward, but we do until you release it and you talk to Sandy. And I'm sure it was a more fruitful, connected conversation instead of your brain worried about last time or worried about the future or worried what she thinks or that face she's making. Like that's what our brain does all day long. Worry, 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 stress response up and down our body. The key to business, the key to life is I've learned is upgrade the most powerful technology we have because it hasn't been upgraded since the beginning of time. Everything looks like a dinosaur.
Yeah. So what I want to add to this conversation is that 3 breath practice. I have a slightly different one that I've led people through in my workshops and my work with them one-on-one. But I
Right.
will tell you the results would be very similar. I love this. The last part is the major different part. And I love that because you're getting grounded in a really feel good feeling. I have advisors and clients tell me that that one thing in between appointments, taking 3 breaths, relaxing your body. My last prompt is think about what's important now, but
Hmm.
I think to switch it or to try one or the other. I've been sharing Debs since I learned it because that's also a great way to learn something new is by sharing it with others. But I have advisors tell me that that is one of the 2 things that I've taught them that's made the biggest difference in their business. Like literally has brought more business because think about this. Not only is your brain on, but if I'm in a meeting with Deb or a prospect or somebody else, how do you think they're going to feel if I've gone brain on versus being brain off? Right? Like, how have you seen? We just have a couple minutes left, but I'm like so excited about all of this, Deb. How do you see this impacts other people? Like we've been talking about how it
Yeah.
impacts you, but when you're in interaction with someone else.
Yeah, in the book, I made sure to start with us, for the 8 chapters, understand how our brains work, especially at work, and how to build them, make them stronger with those exercises. That's what the inner game is. You have to master you before you can even go out in the world and connect and be successful. So that's the outer game you're talking about. You're jumping ahead. That's awesome. But knowing how your brain works and being present for the conversation or that next call automatically energetically turns their brain on, but it also gives you more insight to what they're thinking. And as financial advisors, I know you talk about it. They probably haven't been trained to put that prosperity or the abundance hat on, change their mindset. They are brain off all the time for the most part. And you now need to know and remain brain on yourself so you can help them come to the realization that there's a different mindset for them, which is a mental exercise. So they're doubling their value by sitting there. They just don't know it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Awesome. So Deb, thank you so much for this. If I know, explain, well, first of all, let me say if that I would highly recommend Deb's book. And it's not just because Deb Smolinski is a friend of mine. It's because this is really awesome information. And if you want to be better in your interactions with your clients, with your team, with yourself, and feel less stressed and better, it's really practical information in here. And you could get it on Kindle. You can get an audiobook, right, Deb?
Yep.
Also, yep.
Next week.
And when I got my copy, which just came yesterday, like it is super pretty on the inside. There's colors and most books aren't like that. I like to get hardcover books when it's something I am learning about so I can write in them. So I highly recommend Deb's book. And Deb, if you have an offer now, like if someone buys your book now, they can have access to a program. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, like any routine, it's hard to get started, especially if you're reading a book. So thank you for noticing that. I made it so it's an engaging book read that keeps your brain on, but I want to help people start. So I'm offering an exclusive book club for anybody that buys my book. They just go on my website, purchase the book, and right there's the form to sign up. It's September 12th, and I really hope everybody joins me. This is truly transformative. At least I know it has been in my life and the clients I work with. And so this has been a pure pleasure, Ellen. Total brain on, half an hour.
Thank you. You too, Deb. And it's Deb Smolensky. Deb also has great stuff she posts on LinkedIn. So connect with her on LinkedIn, besides checking out her website and her book. So thank you again, Deb. I'm so thrilled you've shared this information and time with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been great.
And thank you to all of you listening and watching. I am so grateful that you're here. Again, my name is Ellen Rogin. You can find out more about me and the kinds of work I do at ellenrogin.com, ELLENROGIN.com. And if you go to ellenrogin.com/horse's mouth, you can download my special report on what extraordinary advisors know that others don't. And you'll hear about programs and all sorts of stuff coming up, including I have a new book coming out in September. And the question to ponder today is an easy one. Is your brain on or is your brain off? Remember, be great and create great every single day.